As we described, we're going to go until, you know, as close to 12 o'clock. I'm an hour ahead of you. We're going to go as close to 12 o'clock as we can just to see how far we can get here. So we're going to create a command line interface bank accounts program. So we're just focused on object-oriented design. I know a bunch of people were wondering, like, John, how would you structure this? And I feel like if I were to go through this, hopefully you'll understand a little bit better of like my thought process in here. So we're learning how to create a class. How do we create methods inside the class to perform actions? And let's just think about all the requirements that we've got. So number one, it says, create a bank class that will contain your account class and any future bank logic. Okay, so I'm reading this. I see that I've got two classes. One of them is bank, one of them is account. I want to separate all the things that are specifically related to bank and put that inside the bank class. Anything that an account can do, I'm going to pass off to the account. This is a separation of requirements, and it's really good for just ensuring, I'm realizing this is probably too small. And it's just, you want to practice single responsibility. So anything that's related to a bank account, like just the bank itself, I'm going to put inside the bank. Anything that goes specifically with the account is going to go in its own individual class. So I'm going to create an account class that should have the following functionality. A new account should be created with an ID and an initial balance. So my thought process when I first see this is that if you're going to create a new account, you need an ID number and an initial balance. That's something that you probably want to instantiate. You should have a withdraw method that accepts a single parameter, which represents the amount of money that will be withdrawn. This should update the user's updated account balance. It should have a deposit method that accepts a single parameter that will increase the amount, and you should be able to access the state of balance at any time. I'm just going to grab all of this and dump it inside of here. We got a bunch of CSV stuff that we don't need to worry about yet. I'm going to throw this in here. So we're going to ignore line 1 for right now. We're going to create an account. All right, so I'm going to go here, create account.py, and I'm going to split the screen. Get rid of this, put this here. Okay. So a new account should be created with the ID and initial balance. So I know that I'm going to have a class account. It's going to have an init function. And pass in self, probably ID number, and initial balance. I know that I'm probably going to need to reference the ID number and the initial balance over and over again, so I create those to be instance variables. And if we need to change it, we can change it. But for right now, I'm just going to do self.ID number is equal to ID number. Self.initial balance is equal to initial balance. All right, so I believe we've just done number 1 and number 2. They gave us pretty good requirements, so that's probably about it. So we have an initial balance. Do we need to keep track of anything else?
The balance.
Yeah. So initial balance is different from current balance. Current balance is like how much money do you have at the current moment. Initial balance is what did you open up your bank account with. Do you really care about the initial balance? Like we can make that decision together. Do we care?
So you care, I feel like you only care because it's going to be, you can't start an initial balance negative, which isn't, we aren't there yet. So
yeah, we're not there yet. But other than that, do we ever need to worry about the initial balance?
Nah.
All right, let's get rid of this one. I'm going to create I'm going to get rid of this self.initial balance and just call it current balance. So when I first create my bank account, the current balance is equal to the initial one, and I'm going to be updating this over and over again. When I know that I have to update something or I need to reference something like the ID number, I'm just going to keep it as an instance variable by putting self.dot in the front. Does that kind of make sense with my thought process?
All right.
Cool. All right, this third line over here should have a withdraw method. It accepts a single parameter. Okay, they're telling me exactly what to type. Withdraw. I need self. I need to accept the amount of money that you want to withdraw amount. And when I do that, it should update the balance and return that one. So let's say, let's do self.currentBalance minus equals amount and return self.currentBalance. So I've got a withdraw method. It accepts one amount of how much money I'm willing to withdraw, and I'm going to subtract it from the current balance. Once I subtract it, I'm going to return the current balance. Next, I should have a deposit method that accepts a single parameter and how much money you're going to deposit, and you should return the updated amount. It's the same thing as this, except I'm just going to do plus equals.
Hey, John, I have a question.
Sure.
When, do you have to return your instance variable, or will it update automatically?
So it will. So let's read this carefully. So we're back onto number 3. When you withdraw money from your account, you say how much money you want to withdraw. I need to update the balance first, and then I'm going to return the balance because it says this method should return the updated account balance. This one works by itself, but because it said, I want you to show me my current balance, that's what I've got right here.
Okay.
I've got the same thing for deposit. Pretty simple. But this one's just going to be plus equal. And then finally, it says you should be able to access the current balance of an account at any time. So let's say def view current balance. I don't think you need to pass in any parameters, and I can just do return self.current balance. Now at this particular point, you're like, does anything stand out to you as wrong or bad?
Deposit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're right. That's it. What else? Other than the typo, what else did you notice?
It's like the same thing over and over.
The same thing over and over. What's the same thing that's over and over?
The methods are really similar.
So yes, these two methods are very, very similar. But what I noticed is I have 3 lines that are completely identical. So when I see 3 lines that are completely identical, I can see this is a prime area where I can refactor. So let's do that. I've got return self.currentBalance, return self.currentBalance, and return self.currentBalance within this method. So I think instead of just returning it, since it's the same thing as line 15, I can just call view current balance on there. And because it said you should be able to access the current balance at any time, I've got that method called view current balance. So I'm just going to call self.view current balance. And because it's a method, I need to invoke it. Let's just see if this works in real life. So let's just say John's money is equal to account. ID number is 1. Initial balance is $500. Let's say 100. It's more likely. I'm going to do john.view current balance, and we'll just stop there. We'll just see if this one works. All right, I'm going to list out everything and run Python account.py, and nothing works. Ooh, John's money. Whoops. And nothing comes out. Why is nothing coming out?
We're not printing.
We're not printing. We've got a return instead of a current balance. So let's maybe we'll just change this to a print real quick. Let's see if this works. $100. That is exactly what I want. So I start off with 100, and I want to buy some stuff. So John's money dot withdraw $20. Do I need to call? Let's see. So when I withdraw $20, I come up here. I'm going to subtract it from the current balance, and then I'm going to, and then the withdrawal automatically calls view current balance down over here. So let's see if this one works. I started with $100. I subtracted 20. I didn't even need to call view current balance because view current balance is called within this method here. then I decided I wanted to deposit some money. So John's money, that deposit, I don't know, 1273. And if all goes well, it'll update and print as well. Does my thought process make sense for this account class?
Yes.
The main thing this is all pretty simple. The main thing that I changed that might be a little bit new for you is that I have a view current balance and I'm just printing something. But because I know that I need to view the current balance after I withdraw and after I deposit, I just created a separate method so I refactor. I'm not repeating that code over and over again. All right, so let's see. It says, the next thing says a new account can't be opened with an initial negative balance. This should raise an argument error. So this is argument error is from Ruby, so I see where you're getting that issue. Leverage those Googling skills. A withdraw method should also not allow the account to go negative. It should output a warning message and return the original unmodified balance. So let's just tackle this first one. A new account can't be created with an initial negative balance. Makes sense. You can't go to the bank account, create one at Chase, and say, I'd like to put in negative 500 bucks. So I don't know how to raise an error. Raise error in Python. Let's just take a look at this first one right over here. I don't know. How to raise error. Let's take a look at this one and this Stack Overflow right over here.
Can you make it completed?
What's that?
Can you zoom in?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Can you zoom in?
Could you zoom in?
I heard you. All right. So it looks like it's as simple as just saying raise exception. Okay, I'm just going to grab that and see what happens. So again, we're trying to solve this issue of you can't create an account with an initial negative balance. My thought process is when I create my account, before anything happens, I want to make sure that the initial balance is positive. When I first create the account means that it's inside the init function. I'm going to throw it up top. I just copied and pasted a bunch of code. Raise error. Raise exception, you cannot have a negative initial balance. Maybe we'll have an if statement. If initial balance is less than 0, raise exception, you cannot have a negative initial balance. I think that might work. Let's try it. And then if anything, like basically this raise will blow up and then we're done. We're immediately going to be kicked out. So let's just make sure that this works right now the way that I expect. All right, so I've still got the exact same amount of money that from before, so it doesn't blow up when I have a positive balance. But what happens when I have a negative balance? So I'm going to change my money from positive 100 to negative 100. Hopefully, let me clear the screen, this will blow up. Blows up, and there's an exception that's raised. You cannot have an initial negative balance. Right over here. It tells you which line it blows up on. So the way that I view it is I just kind of take this traceback is basically the call stack. What did you execute? On line 20, you ran this line of code. You tried to create John's money as an account with ID number of 1 and a negative balance of 100 to begin with. It went up to line 4. And it blew up right over there. You cannot have a negative initial balance. And if I were to troubleshoot it, I jump to that line. Oh, it looks like I passed in this particular if statement was true, so I need to stop doing it at that point.
Can I ask, is there a reason that you don't need to use self?
Sure. So the question was, is there a reason why I don't need to use self for initial balance? So I'm actually doing this check before I even make this a instance variable. Now you'll notice down here on the withdraw and the deposit, you don't need to pass in self because you're passing in an argument called amount. The same thing applies up here. I'm passing in an argument. The first one is called ID number, and the second one is called the initial balance. So I don't really want to create a unnecessary instance variable until I know that this initial balance is good. So I'm just saying, if is the thing that you passed in less than 0, then raise the exception and we're done. If it's not, if this doesn't evaluate to true, then move on. Then I can create an instance variable called self.id number and self.current balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Somebody open a PR for this a little bit later just to raise an exception. All right, the withdraw method does not allow the account to go negative. It should output a warning message and return the original unmodified balance. All right, so that seems pretty legitimate. I mean, in real life, you could withdraw too much and you're in overdraft, but we're trying to be the nice bank. So using the same line of logic that I have for lines 3 and 4, somebody tell me what to do in this method between lines 9 through 11.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. So I think it's if self.current balance minus amount is less than 0, I'm going to raise an exception and pass myself a nicer message. You can't have initial negative balance. You cannot. You don't. You are too poor. You currently. Let's do a formatted string here. You are too poor. You currently have a self.current balance in terms of money. And you are trying to take out amount, which will leave you with self.current balance minus amount. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to do this one, view the current balance, withdraw $200. So I've written the code up here. If the current balance minus the amount of money that you have is less than 0, you're going to raise this exception with a little bit of a descriptive message. If that doesn't evaluate, then you're going to execute this code right here. So let's just see if I try to withdraw $200 on an account that has 100, something should blow up. So I'm going to clear the screen. Blows up. Raise exception, you are too poor. This is not coming out the way that I want. Do I need to make this go?
It is. It's on the bottom line. It's coming out that way.
There it is. You are too. Oh, it is going through. I see. You are too poor. You currently have $100. You're trying to take out 200, which will leave you with negative 100. Now, one thing that I'll prematurely optimize is that I see that I'm doing self.current balance twice. I could probably refactor this. So I'm just going to say future balance is equal to self.current balance minus amount. And then I can replace a whole bunch of things. This one, I can say future balance. And then over here, I can just say current balance is equal to future balance. So that's one way of doing it. It's like it's a slightly fewer calculations. So I calculate it once over here on line 10. I don't need to calculate it again. Let's see if this still works. Clear? Same thing. You're currently have $100, trying to take out 200, which will leave you with negative 100. So you'll notice here I have a local variable. I have future balance because it's only going to live within lines 9 through 14 whenever I call it. Once line 9 through 14 execute, then it dies. Questions? Let's jump over here. Optional. Create an owner class, which will store information about those who own accounts. They should have name, address, any other identifying information. Add an owner property to each account to track which owner owns which account. Okay, the account can be created with an owner, or you can create a method that will add the owner after the account has already been created. So would you like me to tackle this one? I'm actually going to do it anyway. Mostly because we want to see how two classes can interact with each other. And I think this is a good place to be. So we've got create an owner class, which will store information about those who own the accounts. All right, so I know off the top of my head, I'm going to need an owner.py. I believe I saw this a little bit earlier, account owners. I don't know what any of this means. Why is there nothing in here? It looks like we have last name, first name, first name, address, city, state.
Honolulu is that.
Right. So with that, I know that I'm going to need to do class owner. Owner is going to have an init function. We pass in self first, last name, first name, address, city, state. And then I'm going to do all this self dot, oh my God, self dot last name is equal to last name, and so on and so forth. Let me just do this real quick. First name.
Do you also need to pass in the ID? Is that 14 the IDs?
Could be. You might be right.
The owner ID.
Oh, okay. So let's say I wanted to create a quick owner. So let's say owner is equal to owner, and then I just pass in a few things like all of this. So I pass in these four.
Are you doing it, John?
I'm double. So the question was, how am I putting single quotations? I just double click and I press the single button.
So should we store them as all strings, since when we pull from the CSV, they're probably going to be stored as strings?
We could. It doesn't. That one is up to you. I can do this one. I could just as easily turn them into numbers. I could take that and make it like basically turn it into an integer. There's a bunch of ways you can do it. But one thing I don't like about this, and we covered this last week, but I wasn't there for it, I don't like passing in 1,000 things like this in this order. The issue behind that one is all you got to do is change this to this. Like you flip one thing by accident, and then now your city is now Hawaii and your state is Honolulu. So how do we avoid passing it? I would say 2 to 3 arguments, go ahead and pass it in. Once you get past 3, there's another way that we should probably pass this in.
So,
Yeah, probably using a dictionary. The good part about CSVs is when you read them, you can access it based off of the like the ID number. Like if you have a header like ID number, last name, first name, and so on and so forth. So you have data integrity at that particular point. But if you're passing in things one by one by one by one by one, it's probably not the greatest thing. You should probably be passing in the entire row, and from there, you can figure out which property that you want. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to pass in the whole thing as a like owner information. This is going to be a giant dictionary a little bit later. So owner information, and I need to. Oh my God, this sucks. I'm going to do this real quick. So I'm going to highlight the equal sign. I know that I've got all of these here. I've got a bunch of cursors. I've got all of the owner information, and I can set those instance variables here. Let's go back over here. It says this should have things like name and address and other identifying information. We already figured out what that was. Add an owner property to each account to track information about who owns the account. So the account can be created with an owner, or you can create a method that will add the owner. So let's just do this first one. The account can be created with an owner. So the account, right now, we're just passing in an ID number and an initial balance. How do I pass in a owner? Yeah, it's just another argument. I can just do owner. But I can pass in an owner. It could also be nobody. So I'm just going to say owner equals none. I can pass something in. If there's nothing there, then owner will just be nothing for right now. And then I just add that at the very end, self.owner equals owner. Oh, sorry, self.owner equals owner, the local variable that's passed in. Now I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to import owner into here. So I think it's from owner, import everything. I can also just call it owner. So down here at the very bottom, I'm going to create an owner real quick. Let's say, oh my God, no, okay.
So the owner doesn't connect to accounts in any way without knowing what's.
As of right now, owner doesn't attach itself to account in any way, except that an account belongs to an owner. So let me, maybe this will make more sense if I finish this. Let's say owner info equals a giant object. I'm just going to grab this whole thing here.
Wizard. Wizard.
Oh, whoops. Shoot. Okay. Oh my God, there's no fast way to do this. I was trying to be fancy.
It looks like you lost the past. You already fixed like in a fraction. You just went in like binary sort time and it's all good.
Yeah, we're all on bubble search speed here.
Well, yeah, bubble sort, yeah.
Oh wait, I don't know where this volatility came from. I need to put a bunch of commas. I'm going to highlight all of these and throw a comma at the end. Except for the last one, I don't need a comma there. All right.
I hope the address is.
So let's say that I've got this owner and I've got an account. I'm just going to test this over here. I'm going to have this owner's info over here. I'm going to say owner1 is equal to owner with owner info. And I'm going to make an account with owner1.
Do you have to spread the owner info out or no?
Not the way you set it up.
The way that I set it up, because I'm looking based off of a giant dictionary, that I'm expecting a dictionary to come in. So that's why I spread it out over here like this. So I've got owner1, I've got owner, pass in owner info, and hopefully John's money, if I do print John's money.owner1.owner, I should be able to read the instance variable called owner on this particular account. Let's see if this works. Clear, Python account, and there's that owner object that we created a little bit earlier. It's kind of gross. Like this is where it lives in memory. So this points to an address on your machine. So it's kind of difficult to read, but that object is there. I did create it. Now, if I were to create another account without that owner in there, I believe this should print out none, because remember, when I don't pass in anybody, it'll hard code it to none and set that as the instance variable. And there's that none that we saw before. So the import statement, because owner and account are at the same level, I just did from owner import the class owner. So from the file called owner, that's the lowercase one, import owner, the class, this one right here. Now, there was one more thing from the requirements. It says, or you can create a method that will add the owner after the account has been created. And this makes sense for a bank account. You can open a bank account, and then later down the road, you can transfer it into a joint account, and then you can add your significant other or your parent or something on that account. So I'm going to create a method that will add the owner after the account has been created. All right, so we'll create a quick method down over here, def add owner. You need self, and maybe I'll just pass in the owner object. I'm going to do self.owner equals owner. This way, I can create my owner. I pass in, I create an account without an owner. This should read none. Then I create an owner, and I'm just going to say John's money dot add owner and pass in owner 1, and then print out the owner again. Clear the screen. So when I first created the first print statement here on line 38, it prints out none because there's no owner on line 37. Then I'm going to create an owner, add that owner to the account, and then I print it again, and I've got this over here. Now, one key decision, and this kind of goes back to like, I guess the maturity of a software engineer is, should you be passing in the entire owner object? Should you be passing in the info about the owner and then creating an object here? I mean, that's kind of up to you. But my thought process behind it is that an account should be responsible for an account. So if I pass in like owner information, and then I create an owner, like self.owner equals owner with owner information. This is probably account stepping past its bounds. Like you're out of your lane, man. Like the account should be in charge of things like withdraw, deposit, viewing current balance. But the account should not be in charge of like taking the information, creating a new owner, and then setting that there. You're overstepping a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to ask you that when we started. I was like, shouldn't the owner be in charge of the account? Because he can create multiple accounts, like checking, saving, you name it. Shouldn't the owner house the account? I mean, would that be a better implementation?
Sure. Let me take Christian's question real quick, just in case it's related.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're kind of skipping the account owner CSV. You can just take the owners and connect them to whatever accounts you want them to, or you can have different owners match up with the same account number, and that kind of like works out connecting multiple account owners for a single account or multiple accounts for a single owner together. And it's just a CSV that links accounts and owners.
Let's do this. I don't disagree that we're missing that. Let's get to that after we finish this, and we'll go back and we'll change it if we need to. Going back to Narayan's question. Sorry, I forgot your question.
Well, I'm just saying, as a design choice, wouldn't it have been okay to create an owner and put the owner class in charge of accounts? That way, especially, I think the next two were Christian's is saying, once you instantiate owner, the past variables from the CSV file, you can instantiate accounts, and owner would house all the multiple accounts.
Okay, so that is fine. So it's like you can choose your own adventure, but I'll point out a flaw in that logic is that once an owner can control an account, the owner can basically add all accounts to themselves. Like if the owner is in charge of adding a bunch of accounts, then they can add in other people's accounts into their thing that are not necessarily associated. By doing this add owner onto the account here, the account is in charge of knowing which owner it's part of rather than the owner saying which account is a part of it. Because then I can just say, like, I'm an owner, technically speaking. I want to take Bill Gates' account. Versus Bill Gates' account is basically saying, like, I belong to Bill Gates at the moment.
Okay, but couldn't the account just say, Bill Gates is my owner? Could it just say,
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like we could argue to the end of time. Like you could do it your way. That is totally okay. This is just my thought process. No, I understand. But I'm saying you have to be able to defend that during an interview because that's what they're going to ask and that's what they're looking for as well. So if you can defend it well, which I'm sure you can, then go ahead and do that. Holly?
So I actually, based on what they're saying, I did mine, I had a bank that was like the parent to both of those. So I had a bank.py that assigned owner to account, like it was the one that made those decisions, I guess.
Sure.
Is that like another way to do that?
That is another way to do it where it's like account is just in charge of itself. But account, you still need to be able to add oh, that's true. The bank can add a owner to an account. That's a better one. So it's like, it's It's kind of like as long as you're able to argue it. So yes, a bank could, like the bank class is in charge of adding and removing people from the account.
Right.
That one works. I like that. Okay, we got 8 minutes. Let's see how far we can get. We want to figure out class methods, use a CSV for loading data. All right, so requirements. Update the account class to be able to handle all the fields from the CSV file as an input. For example, manually choose the data from the first line and ensure you can create a new instance of that. All right, let's just do that one first. So the account should be able to read CSV stuff. So it looks like accounts are right here. There is a, what on earth is that? Okay, so I've got an account number, an amount of money perhaps?
Yes, it's amount of money and then a date time.
And then when it was created. Okay, we've got account. We need to pass in a few things. So the ID number, the initial balance, the owner comes last actually, I would say. In this case then, opened time, date of opening, and then the owner is nothing. So the idea here is I've got a CSV file, and right now there's only 12. CSV stands for comma separated values. It is a non-formatted Excel spreadsheet. So essentially what's going to happen is we're going to have business people who are going to be working in Excel all the time. They're going to be exporting exporting all of their Excel stuff in CSV format to be put inside of a database. So the idea here is I've got rows of data. I need to iterate over each individual row and then create a bunch of accounts and save it inside of a database. CSV, no matter what, will be around forever. I've got 3 things. I need to read the ID number, the account, and then this weird looking thing. So this weird looking thing, I'm just gonna save as a string, but you could turn it into like a date time object. And we won't focus on that right now. Right now, we just want to read the CSV. So I have no idea, I don't remember, how to read in CSV Python. Reading and writing CSV files in Python. I'm just going to jump to, okay, reading CSV files with CSV. Reading CSV files into a dictionary with CSV. That one seems a little bit more like what we had, what we wanted. So I'm going to click that. And I'm just going to copy and paste because I'm super lazy. So right now, I'm probably doing too much stuff in here, but seeing as I have 6 minutes, I'm going to just put it all in here. So I know that I need to import the CSV library. Great. Cut it, put it at the top, before the from. It doesn't matter if you put it before or after. I like to import all of the libraries up top and then your files right afterwards. For no other reason than that's just my personal preference. It will still run if I do that.
That's standard.
All right, so let's take a look with this. So I'm going to, my idea here is I want to open up the account's CSV file. I want to read it. I want to put everything inside, like read everything, and then create a bunch of accounts. So I'm going to open so I'm inside of account. I want to go into support/accounts.csv as CSV file, and I don't need that one because that's the column names. I don't need this. For row, and if I'm not mistaken, I can just do, where's owner? There it is. I need all of this information. So I've imported CSV on line 1. Down over here, I'm opening the support accounts.csv file, this one right over here that I've got open here on tab number 2. I'm going to read it in, and I'm going to save the entire file as CSV file. I'm going to create everything into a dict reader, and I'm going to iterate over every single one of those rows. I believe I need all of this information, so I'm going to create, let's say, accounts is equal to that. I'm just going to do accounts.append with, actually, let's just create account info. Actually, I'm in the wrong one, aren't I? Yes, I'm in the wrong one. I need these 3 things. I'm going to pass in the.
You're pulling each line as a dictionary, right? So can you
Yeah,
just
everything is a dictionary. So this might blow up. Let's just print row and see what we get. All right, so we have an ordered dictionary. Whoa, this is kind of gross. Let's not read it as an ordered dictionary then. Let's just read it in as a regular file. I've realized the owner class is the one with the dictionary inside of it. So let's just read the file with CSV. And we see that the delimiter is that one. So I'm just going to copy this line. And I'm just going to print the row at this point. So let's see. Clear? All right, so it looks like the first thing is the ID number, the second one is the balance, and the third one. Okay, so I know that this is an array. This is a list, and I'm able to access 0, 1, and 2. So I'm going to append with row of 0, row of 1, and row of 2. And then at the end, I'm just going to do print accounts to see what we get. Clear the screen. What did I blow up on?
You have to convert the row to.
Let's see, if initial balance is less than 0. Oh, it looks like I am passing in a string, as we saw a little bit earlier, and instead that needs to be a number. So how do I turn something into a number? Is it just int?
Yeah.
Here we go. So now we have an array of account objects. Each one of these account objects live at different memory addresses. So you'll see this one is different from this one over here. But maybe we want to we want to iterate over each one of them. So let's do for count in accounts. Print account dot current balance, or view current balance, I think. Oh, there's a bunch of weird things going on here with that, none, that, none, that, none. Interesting. There should be 12 accounts that were created. So let's go back here and let's just say print accounts.length. Oh, it's len accounts.
JavaScript.
Oh, JavaScript. Oh, really?
We are getting 12. View current balance, view current balance, view current balance.
Are you passing up?
Current balance.
We changed current balance.
It's actually not print, that's why. Because the print is already in the view current balance, so that's why it's printing out like that. So if I run this again, I get all of my accounts with all the different amounts of money that are inside of there. I'm going to stop the recording here, and we'll go over the assessment.